A Star is Born 1937 film. A Star is Born is a 1937 American Technicolor romantic drama film produced by David O. Selznick, directed by William A. Wellman from a script by Wellman, Robert Carson, Dorothy Parker, and Alan Campbell, and starring Janet Gaynor in her only Technicolor film as an aspiring Hollywood actress, and Fredric March in his Technicolor debut. The supporting cast features Adolphe Menjou, Robson, Devine, Lionel Stander, and Owen Moore. The film has been remade 4 times: in 1954, directed by George Cukor, and starring Judy, Garland, and James Mason; in 1976, directed by Frank Pierson, and starring Barbra Streisand and Kristofferson; in 2013, directed by Mohit Suri and starring Shraddha Kapur and Aditya Kapur; and in 2018. Plot: North Dakota farm girl Esther Victoria Blodgett yearns to become a Hollywood actress. Although her aunt and father discourage such thoughts, Esther's grandmother gives Esther her savings to follow her dream. Esther goes to Hollywood and tries to land a job as an extra, but so many others have had the same idea that the casting agency has stopped accepting applications. Esther is told that her chances of becoming a star are 1 in 100,000. She befriends a new resident at her boarding house, assistant director Danny McGuire, himself out of work. When Danny and Esther go to a concert to celebrate Danny's employment, Esther has her first encounter with Norman Maine, an actor she admires greatly. Norman has been a major star for years, but his alcoholism has sent his career into a downward spiral. Danny gets Esther a one-time waitressing job at a fancy Hollywood party. While serving orders, she catches Norman's eye. He gets his longtime producer and good friend, Oliver Niles, to give her a screen test. Impressed, Oliver gives her a new name, Vicki Lester, and a contract. She practices her few lines for her first tiny role. When the studio has trouble finding a female lead for Norman's current film, entitled The Enchanted Hour, Norman persuades Oliver to cast Esther. The film makes her an overnight success, even as viewers continue to lose interest in Norman. Norman proposes to Esther. She accepts when he promises to give up drinking. They elope without publicity, much to press agent Matt Libby's disgust, and enjoy a trailer camping honeymoon in the mountains. When they return, Esther's popularity continues to skyrocket, while Norman realizes his own career is over despite Oliver's attempts to help him. Norman stays sober for a while, but his frustration over his situation finally pushes him over the edge, and he starts drinking again. When Esther wins the industry's top award, the Academy Award for Best Actress, he interrupts her acceptance speech by drunkenly demanding 3 awards for the worst acting of the year and accidentally slapping her when he dramatically swings his arms back. A stay at a sanatorium seems to cure Norman's increasingly disruptive alcoholism, but a chance encounter with Libby allows the press agent to vent his long-concealed contempt. Norman goes on a 4-day drinking binge and winds up arrested for drunk driving. In court, the judge sentences him to 90 days of incarceration, but Esther pleads with the judge to put Norman under her care. The judge, who is impressed with Esther's acting success, suspends Norman's sentence and puts Norman's custody into Esther's hands. Esther decides to give up her career to devote herself to his rehabilitation. After Norman overhears her discussing her plan with Oliver, he drowns himself in the Pacific Ocean. Shattered, Esther decides to quit and go home. Showing up soon afterward is her grandmother, who has heard Esther is quitting. Her grandmother tells her of a letter Norman sent her when they got married. The letter stated how proud he was of Esther and how much he loved her. Because of her grandmother's words and the reminder of Norman's deep love, Esther is convinced to stay in show business. At the premiere of her next film at Grauman's Chinese Theater, when Esther is asked to say a few words into the microphone to her many fans listening across the world. Cast. Production. A Star is Born was filmed from October to December 1936 with an estimated budget of $1,173,000, $639, and premiered in Los Angeles on April 20, 1937, at Grauman's Chinese Theater. The film's New York premiere took place 2 days later at Radio City Music Hall. It is not known how much Dorothy Parker contributed to the finished script. When she first saw the film, Parker was proud of her contribution and boasted about both the script and the film, but in later life she believed that she had contributed nothing of significance. Early in their careers, Bud Schulberg, then a script reader for David O. Selznick, and Ring Lardner, Jr., who was working in Selznick's publicity department, were assigned to write some additional dialogue for the film, a collaboration which produced Janet Gaynor's and the film's final words, "This is Mrs. Norman Maine." The line was used again in the 1950s. George Cukor, who directed the remake, suggested adding the scene in the 1937 film where Menjou offers the fading star a supporting role. Background: some film historians believe that the marriage of Barbra Stanwyck and Frank Fay was the film's real-life inspiration. John Bowers has also been identified as inspiration for the Norman Maine character and the dramatic suicide by drowning scene near the end of the film. Bowers drowned in November 1936. The film contains several inside jokes, including Gaynor's brief imitations of Greta Garbo, Katharine Hepburn, and Mae West, the Crawford smear, referring to Joan Crawford's lipstick, and the revelation that the glamorous Norman Maine's real last name is Hinkle. Hinkle was the real last name of silent film star Agnes Ayres, and not far removed from Fredric March's real last name, Bickle. This film also has many similarities to the earlier film, What Price Hollywood? 1932, released by RKO Radio Pictures. The 1932 film's original title was The Truth About Hollywood, based on a story by Adela Rogers St. John's. St. John's loosely based her plot on the experiences of actress Colleen Moore and her husband, alcoholic producer John McCormick (1893–1961), and the life and death of director Tom Foreman, who committed suicide following a nervous breakdown. 4 years after What Price Hollywood was released, Selznick approached George Cukor and asked him to direct A Star is Born. Cukor felt the plot was too similar to What Price Hollywood, so he declined. RKO executives considered filing a plagiarism suit against Selznick International Pictures because of the similarities in the story, but eventually chose not to take legal action. Cukor later directed the 1954 musical Remake starring Judy Garland. A common Hollywood myth about the film is that Lana Turner appeared as an extra in one of the scenes in the film. Turner often denied the myth over the years, mentioning that she was discovered several months after the picture had finished production. Soundtrack: A Star is Born, sung by Buddy Clark with the orchestra of Eddie Duchin. The lyrics were written by Dorothy Dick to the music of Max Steiner. Reception: critical reception. Contemporary reviews were very positive. Frank S. Nugent of the New York Times called the film one of the year's best shows as well as good entertainment by any standards, including the artistic and convincing proof that Hollywood need not travel to Ruritania for its plots. There is drama aplenty in its own backyard. Variety raved, a smash which unquestionably will rate among the half-dozen best of the season. Harrison's reports called it a powerful human interest drama. Film Daily said it was superbly done in all departments, and John Mosher of The New Yorker called it a pleasant movie with many nice touches. Review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes reports an approval rating of 100% based on 20 reviews, with an average rating of 7.69/10. Box office: the film earned over $2 million, and by the end of 1939 the film had generated a profit of $181,000. It was the first film to show that films about Hollywood could be successful. Awards and nominations. Adaptations to other media. At the time of the release of the film, a 15-minute transcription, a pre-recorded radio show issued on 16-inch disc promoting the film's release, was made. The narrated promotional radio show included sound clips from the film. The show was recorded and released through the World Broadcasting System with disc matrix number H-1636-2. The film was adapted as a radio play on the September 13, 1937 episode of Lux Radio Theatre with Robert Montgomery and Janet Gaynor, the November 17, 1940 episode of the Screen Guild Theatre starring Loretta Young and Burgess Meredith. Remakes, remakes, smakes, 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 smakes. A Star is Born has been remade 4 times. In 1951, a television adaptation with Kathleen Crowley and Conrad Nagel. In 1954, with Judy Garland and James Mason. In 1976, with Barbra Streisand and Kristofferson. And in 2018 with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper. Altogether, the 4 movies received 25 nominations for various Academy Awards, winning only 3. 1937, Best Writing Original Story, 1976, Best Music Original Song, 2018 Best Achievement in Music Written for Motion Pictures Original Song, and also an honorary award in 1930. The movies have been remade or adapted, albeit unofficially, in Hindi, as Abhiman 1973, starring Amitabh Bachchan and Jaya Bachchan, and Ashaqui 2 2013, starring Aditya Roy Kapur and Shraddha Kapur, which in turn was remade in Telugu as Nijathaga Nenandali 2014. Ownership and copyright status. Selznick International Pictures dissolved, leaving the film's rights to financier John Hay Whitney. Whitney then sold the film to Film Classics, Inc. in 1943. With declining rerun revenue, Film Classics placed the film up for sale with producer Edward L. Alperson with the intent to remake the film. Instead, Alperson sold the film's copyright, including film story, screenplay, and score, to Warner Bros. in 1953. Warner in 1954 issued the first remake. In 1965, the film entered the public domain in the United States because Warner did not renew its copyright registration in the 28th year after publication. The original 35 master elements remain with Warner Bros. The rights to the film's story, screenplay, and score also remain with Warner Bros. Thus, it still has exclusive rights to all 3 remakes as well as any future remakes. Home media. The film was released on Blu-ray in the U.S. by Kino Lorber Inc. in February 2012, featuring an edition authorized by the estate of David O. Selznick from the collection of George Eastman House. A second Blu-ray from Warner Archive Collection will be released as a manufacture-on-demand title in March 2022 with a 4K restoration from the original nitrate Technicolor negative. That release contains the original trailer plus Merry Melodies cartoon A Star is Hatched and the live-action shorts Mal Hallett and his orchestra taking the count and Alibi Mark. In addition, 2 Radio Lux Radio Theatre broadcasts from 1937 and 1942 are also included. Janet Gaynor reprised her role in the 1937 broadcast, while the 1942 broadcast featured Judy Garland, who would go on to play Esther in the 1954 musical adaptation.